Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bolt Action Reloading. In this week's episode, we're going to be testing these Hornady 110 grain A-TIPs along with Alliant Reloder 16. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of the community here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post next week's video and you won't miss anything. Today's video, we're going to be continuing again our testing with these Hornady A-TIPs. The last testing we looked at with these Hornady A-TIPs was using Hodgkin's H4350. When I did my video asking which powders you guys wanted to see, the top two were Hodgkin's H4350 and Alliant Reloder 16. So this is how we're going to be starting with Alliant Reloder 16. In similar fashion to our H4350 testing, we are just doing a pressure curve today, but we've got a lot to learn and we have some very interesting results. I really think we're going to learn a lot from our 10 rounds today, but I'm very interested to hear what you guys think about it. Starting off right with today's testing, we're basically starting off with low data directly from Hornady. Hornady does have data for our 110 grain A-TIPs right on their website. At least as I'm making this video, it's still available for download. It probably will be until they print their next manual. But if you're interested in the 6mm Creedmoor data, I would certainly go download it. That aside, let's go in for today's testing. Our brass for today is just factory Hornady brass that we're reusing from some factory 108 ELDs that we tested here on the channel as well. Hornady brass large rifle primer. Our primer today we're going to be using is the CCI 250. For those of you that aren't familiar, we've had pretty good luck with Magnum primers here in the past, but stick around, we're going to have that discussion after we get into the test results. All of our statistics are basically going to be coming right out of our book. Pretty much a Scott Satterley test true to the book today. Our load data is telling us at 41.1 grains of Alliant Reloder 16, we will have an estimated velocity in the ballpark of 3,050 feet per second. True to other testing, we're actually going to go one step above that, so our max charge today is going to be at 41.3 grains. For today's test, we'll be starting off at 39.5 grains of Alliant Reloder 16, stepping up in 0.2 of a grain increments, all the way to our 41.3 grain load. Our rifle has a pretty short throat. We're going straight with Hornady's data today. Cartridge overall length in our book is actually 2.810 inches, and that's what we'll be loading today. Our cartridge-based ogive measurement will be 2.190 inches. And because it wouldn't be any fun if we didn't have to buy more toys for these expensive bullets, for our projectile seating today, we are using the special 110 grain A-TIP seating stem. The part number is 397139. That seating stem should work perfectly for our projectiles, or at least that's what we're paying the big bucks to Hornady for. Hornady seating stem means Hornady seating die, and so you'll be using that. Our group size today isn't something we're drastically concerned with. We'd love to see a real small group. In reality, plateaus are what we're really looking for and what our load test would be all about for today, or at least ordinarily. I take you guys out to the range, but I'm not sure that there's a whole lot to learn. I'll put the group that we ended up with on the screen. You can see our 10-shot group was 1.121 MOA. Not really spectacular, though I tell you the one shot that's off, I definitely pulled. I'm not really into the leading shots, but I know that one was off. And 9 shots fell into 0.604 MOA. Over a pretty decent span, which ended up being 158 feet per second from top to bottom, basically shooting into 0.6 MOA, we're certainly not complaining too much here about that result. Our velocity nodes are really kind of what we look to see here and see if our testing got us anywhere close to our expected velocities. So let's put our velocity chart on the screen, and you can see at 39.5 grains, we started off at 2929 feet per second. However, we didn't reach our low velocity until actually the 39.7 grain charge at 2905 feet per second. Just to make it clear, the barrel was actually warmed up with a different test prior to this testing, so the 39.5 grain charge was not the first shot down the barrel for the day. And so having that velocity dip was a little bit unexpected. But as we browse up our curve, we went all the way to 41.3 grains, hitting a max velocity of 3,087 feet per second. Certainly our graph was not what we were hoping for and not what we expected today. Before we get into criticizing this load development style, I want to bring back our chart real quick for H4350. Just for a quick reference, I would like to make clear the brass that was used to test this was from the identical lot of brass, the very same package, same primer, different powder, same projectile. Obviously, as far as the Scott Satterley graph is concerned, the H4350 gave us very close to what we were hoping for, though keep in mind, we did not hit the velocity we expected either. We expected at that 42 grain charge for the H4350 to be hitting that 3,050 feet per second wall as well, but 2985 was all that we hit. With Reloder 16, we were able to exceed our 3050, but with only one shot. Had we shot our max charge at 41.1 grains, 2993 would have been as high as we would have gotten. I'm not sure there was really any great velocity node in there to be seen. I've been looking at this graph for a little while, and honestly, one of the biggest things I've gotten out of this graph is I think it's time to look for a different primer for Reloder 16. I've had very good luck with several Magnum primers with H4350, certainly been able to achieve some low standard deviations, but this graph is kind of all over the place, and I certainly was hoping to see better information here. And I'm not saying that it's terrible. Between some of the points, there isn't significant differences in velocity. At least in my opinion, there's no real clear velocity node. If we did want to, load up at the max at 40.9 or 41.1, those are fairly close, and maybe we would see consistent velocities there. For 6mm projectiles, these are pretty expensive, and we don't just want to throw them down the tube and see what happens. And if we're not close to our expected velocity, maybe we really need to look at something else. Like we've done before, we're going to talk a little bit about quick load data and see what quick load actually predicted, because overall quick load has been fairly accurate for what we've expected. So quick load expected us to start off at 2965 feet per second and end up at 3082 feet per second. Starting off at 2929, not too bad, and starting off at 3087 within 5 feet per second. I certainly can't complain about its estimates. However, it really just doesn't seem like we're hitting that velocity with the Reloder 16 until the very end. And we certainly don't want to be right at the maximum pressure, because that 41.3 grain charge is actually over pressure, even according to quick load. The max pressure for 6mm Creedmoor is 61,989 psi. That's just over it at 62,103. You'll need to decide what's safe and what's not safe for you. Let me run you through the brass real quick so you guys can take a look. As far as the cases are concerned, we really didn't see any ejector marks, no primer cratering whatsoever. Not that we expect to see on these large rifle primers anyway. As far as pressure signs in the brass is concerned, there's really nothing to concern us. Only the estimated pressure coming out of quick load. And seeing as what our testing looks like, I don't really see anything here that's interesting. I will certainly take the criticism for the poor primer choice today. I think that what it's going to do is bring up some more testing on primers with Alliant Reloder 16. We've certainly done a lot with H4350. I've run several large rifle, several small rifle, and kind of picked my favorites. And that's one of the reasons why we picked the large rifle primers. They've worked really well for H4350, and I think our previous test with the A-TIPs proves that. Multiple shelves on there that all gave us good powder charges that I would, happily load on, and I think some good standard deviations would be able to be had from the data on that chart, and we're going to get there. I think we're going to be doing some more Reloder 16 primer testing, maybe even in a similar cartridge, maybe some 6.5 Creedmoor, just to see if we can get some better results and maybe learn something in another cartridge with some cheaper projectiles that we can bring back in to this test and hopefully come up with some better results next time. If you guys have had some good results with Alliant Reloder 16, I'd love to know what primer you're using, small or large rifle, because we have brass for both. But even if you're not reloading for these A-TIPs, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments or questions about today's video, please put that in the comment section below. If you like the content here on the channel and you find it interesting, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post next week's video. I hope to see you back next week, and until then, stay safe in small groups.